Parshas Yisro. This week's Parsha begins by introducing Yisro, or not introducing him, but bring him into the scene at this point. We've seen him earlier. Moshe and Yisro reacquaint themselves with each other. Yisro is Moshe's father-in-law. They discuss the wonders and miracles of the Exodus of Egypt. And then after they celebrate, then it's the next day, and Yisro sees what's going on. And what's going on is that Moshe is busy all day, from the morning until night, in settling disputes, in making rulings and settling disputes, basically as a judge. Lishpot es ha'am, to judge the people. And Yisro says, I don't think this is going to work, because if you continue doing this all by yourself, you're going to get worn out. The people are going to get worn out. There's going to be mutual resentment, and the system is going to break down. So what you need to do is to appoint judges and to appoint districts and judges over a smaller number and over a larger number, and anything that is too great for them, so then you handle. And it's a small thing that they'll handle. And Moshe actually recharacterized, and he says, the difficult things they'll bring to me. In other words, Moshe is the ultimate authority, but he won't deal with the little stuff. But he doesn't call it the little stuff. One of the Meforshim, one of the commentaries, explains that to Yisro, what was important was there a lot at stake or little at stake? If there's little at stake, then you can have, in essence, a small claims court. And if the amount of dispute is very large, so then it'll get kicked upstairs. And Moshe rephrases this somewhat, and he says, that's not how I'm going to select who does what. Everything is important. It doesn't make a difference how much money is at stake. The smaller amount or the larger amount, they all deserve appropriate attention. However, not everybody is equally capable. Not everybody is as learned in the law. So ultimately, the more difficult stuff, issues, would get kicked upstairs to Moshe. So now the question is, who do you appoint as judges? So Moshe says to him, listen to this is my advice. You go look at all the people. We're now in Perek Yud Ches, Pasuk Chaf Aleph. That's 18:21. Ata techazeh mikol ha'am. You look at all the people, and some people, like Rashi, say that techazeh is the language of chazon, which is typically reserved for a nevuah, a prophecy. But it can also be, according to other commentaries, just means to look discerningly, to look beyond the surface. What's he looking for? Well, we're picking judges. So Anshe Chayil, men of, we're going to delay translating this for a minute. Chayil, we'll get back to that. Yirei Elokim, those who fear God. Anshe Emes, men of truth. Sonei Botza, who despise profit. Most say this means ill-gotten gains, or generally they're not materialistic. But now let's go back to Anshe Chayil. We know that a Chayal is a soldier. What does Rashi say? Anshe Chayil Ashirim, wealthy. Where does that come from? She'ein tzrichim lahachniv ulahakir ponim. They don't have to flatter or show favorites in order to gain benefit for themselves. Now, there's people who are sufficiently comfortable that we can never eliminate, but reduce the likelihood that they will show some kind of favoritism towards one side rather than another because of personal gain. No one's ever beyond personal gain, but if somebody is in need of money, they may find themselves favoring somebody who can help them out. So that's Rashi's explanation. And we know, for example, that in Devarim, where Hashem warns the people about the potential negative side effects of success, which is, a person might say, Kochi va'otzem yadi osali esachayil hazeh. It's my strength and my own power, my own might that got for me all of this chayil. And there, it's pretty clear that it means treasure or success. So Rashi draws on this evidently to say, and it's based on there are numerous midrashim that go along in the same path. But what he's saying is that we want people who are wealthy. Now the Ramban takes issue with this, and many others do as well. The Ramban says that chayil means anything where there's some collection of attributes or goods. So he says, for example, there's a chayil of arbeh, of locusts. That would be a swarm. That's a collection. It can be the army, as we explained. It can also be money, as we explained. It can be attributes. In other words, there ought to be a combination of factors that will contribute towards the proper administration of justice. And he reads, and others comment on this, that the verse actually reads, you discern for yourself men of chayil, of a collection of attributes, or multi-talented, or let's say competent people. And then you might put a colon there and not say that Anshe Chayil is one of a number of attributes, but rather it is the category into which the various attributes fall. What are those various attributes? As we mentioned from the verse, from Pasuk Chaf Aleph, verse 21. Yirei Elokim, people who fear God. Anshe Emes, dedicated to the truth. Sonei Batza, they reject ill-gotten gains. So the Mefarshim explain that Yirei Elokim, somebody fears God, so he wants to do the right thing. And he's humble. A Yirei Elokim, somebody who fears God, understands that he is not the last word. He is not the final authority. He may be the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, if you will, the parallel. Maybe that. The Nasi HaSanhedrin. He may be the head of the court, but nevertheless, he is still a human being, and there is a God, and that God is all-powerful. And if you're Yirei Elokim, you understand that you don't write the laws. You use your best judgment to assess what the applicable law is in this case, and to apply it regardless of the impact on people who might do you good. Anshe Emes, people who are dedicated to the truth. If there are standards, we apply them. We don't avoid them. Sometimes it's difficult, but we always try to seek the truth and not to be deceived by people who would try to convince us otherwise. Sonei Batza are people who are, as we said, they reject ill-gotten gains, or they're not very materialistic. In other words, that these are people who are not likely to be corrupted. These are the minimum standards for a judge. Somebody who has a sense of mission, who has a sense of righteousness, who is humble and not corruptible. The Rashbam says that this is talking about, besides wealth, Rashi was his grandfather, so he says not only means wealth, but it means power as well. Gevura. What's the kind of gevura? We're talking about the power not independent of the judiciary, even within the judiciary, but rather somebody who has a gibor, ezu gibor akovesh Yisro, somebody who understands that he has a mission, and even though it may be uncomfortable, and even though he may suffer personal consequence from ruling the way he does, the Torah says, "Lo sagoru mipnei ish." A judge is not allowed to fear anyone as a consequence of his ruling. He has to judge, he has to rule. Don emes lamito. He has to judge things according to the way he sees them. The Ben Ezra reads Anshe Chayil to mean that power, but a different type of power, a power to withstand the Torah, the aggressiveness of the litigants, and the burden of carrying the responsibility of judging in the case, and not to avoid making a decision because of the consequences, the personal consequences. Shor says, and this actually resonates in a few other circumstances with a few other commentaries, that they're zerizim, they're diligent. In his case, it's diligent lahatzil ashuk miyad oshko, to protect a person who is oppressed inappropriately, and to return money to somebody from whom it was taken improperly. The Ramban, who we mentioned earlier, also says that it has to be somebody who can be a leader of men, a leader of people, who can have the strength of character to lead people. And there's obviously has to be smart, but he has to be a zariz, he has to be diligent, he has to be straight. And the zerizos that we talk about, this diligence, is we find this in Mishlei, where Shlomo Melech talks about Eshes Chayil Miyimsa. Who can find a woman of Chayil? There, clearly it doesn't mean a woman of riches. Well, she may have been rich, whoever he's talking about. Maybe he wrote about his mother, maybe somebody else. But at the end of the day, what he's talking about, and if we look at Eshes Chayil, if we think about it when we sing it on Friday night, it's all manner of resourcefulness and diligence and competence. And this is who we're looking for in a judge. So the Kylie Yakar says that Eina HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mashra Shchinaso Ki Im Al Gibor Chacham Anav Ashir. And a Gibor, we mentioned, is a Gibor Kovesh Yisro, somebody who can overcome what fears he might have. A Chacham is somebody who is wise. An Anav is somebody who's humble. And Ashir, he says, Rav Schwab says about Ashir, that the Chacham say, Ezu Ashir HaSameach B'chelko. Who is the wealthy person? The person who is satisfied with what he has. In other words, he doesn't have the longing for more. And when a person does not have a longing for more, even if he's not himself wealthy, but he could be immune from the pressures that otherwise might affect him, the way a wealthy person presumably is somewhat immune, not totally. We know that there are people who are wealthy who always want more. Yisro, Mano, Rotzam Asayim, somebody who has $100, he wants $200. But at the end of the day, these are the requirements of a judge. And a judge, we know, does not only mean somebody who sits in judgment on other people, but it also means somebody who has the strength of character to sit in judgment on himself, those around him, to make correct decisions, not on the basis of what team do I belong to, how am I going to make some more money, how am I going to benefit personally, but rather, what is the right thing to do. Have a good Shabbos.